The June 9th, 2025 Board of Zoning Appeals hearing shall come to order. Tara, we have a roll call, please.
Clint will be doing that.
How about we start Karen DeForest?
Here.
Landon Brown.
Here.
Dan Reinhold.
Here.
Kevin Stockwell.
Here.
And Doug Smith.
Here.
You have a quorum and everybody's present.
Okay, we'll go through the rules and procedures for the evening.
Please turn your cell phones off or to vibrate. Please keep conversations to a minimum and when necessary as quiet as possible. Meetings are recorded. Information concerning the agenda and applications are available on the table near the entrance. Restrooms are located on the north outside of the commissioner's room. Exits located on the east side of the commissioner's room. If you have not done so already, please sign in. Please speak only when at the podium. State your name and address. Speak only to the chair. Be brief and speak to the topic in discussion. Be mindful there's a speaking time limit. Petitioner will be given a time limit of 10 minutes and remonstrator will have a time limit of 3 minutes. Staff presents a petition. Petitioner speaks for the petition. Public hearing, members of the public may speak in favor or opposition of the application. Board members may question remonstrators. Petitioner may address questions. No new evidence presented. Motion is made in the affirmative. If a second is received, discussion will commence. Amendments may be made. Voting will take place. The result will be announced. First petition on the document is AP-25-01 Pine Canyon Lake Association. Petition to appeal the plan director's decision. Decision being appealed is allowing the continued operation of an existing gravel pit located at 2580 North, 600 West, Section 12 of Jackson Township, map number 760512000040000005. Here's a GIS photo, aerial photo of the gravel pit and the remainder of the property in question. Here's the sign and a picture of the sign at the entrance of the gravel pit, and we're looking straight back to the east. We're standing 2 steps to the left, looking in the same direction. Now we're looking back to the north at the entrance. And that is all that I have for this petition.
Okay. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jamie Saylor. My address is 655 and 100 Pine Canyon Lake.
Hold the mic a little bit in front of your face, please, so I think we'll hear you.
It may not be on.
It may not, okay.
Oh, I get a report on the water.
Yeah.
Okay, Jamie Saylor, 655 Lane 100 Pine Canyon Lake.
Here.
Can you plug in my laptop with my PowerPoint?
Sure can.
Please, thank you.
Turn this all on. I'll give it to you. Yeah, one for you.
There's nothing that looks like this in there.
About the one on the back.
Probably, yeah.
Job, Tara. Good job.
Thank you.
Raise tomorrow.
I already filled out the book.
It's that. $9,500. That's great. Has to be the shirt to look into that, not us.
Just, he's just.
Okay. Ready?
That issue is a industrial sand and gravel operation operating on a parcel that's in the environmental control district. It's directly adjacent to Pine Canyon Lake subdivision, which is like residential. It's also a few hundred feet from Pine Canyon Lake itself. Steuben County in 2008 passed a new chapter in the zoning ordinance. The chapter zoning ordinance references are to the 2008 zoning ordinance. Next slide, please. Thank you. The ordinance requirements should be construed to affect the purposes that are outlined within the ordinance, which are in turn affecting a comprehensive plan that was adopted by the county. Local environmental heritage is to be enhanced and protected, and with respect to Steuben County, that means the lakes and our surface and freshwaters. We're also intending to promote public health, safety, comfort, and general public welfare. Next slide, please. The BZA should construe the language of the ordinance to carry out the intent of the ordinance, which we can gather from purpose. But in any event, here the language that we're looking at is clear and the terms are defined. Next slide, and then next slide. Thank you. In 2006, the county adopted a future land use map, which showed a clear intention to preserve areas around our surface waters, our lakes and streams, for conservation agriculture purposes as opposed to more industrial purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. This parcel is zoned environmental control. Next slide. And in the ordinance, these areas are developed to ensure minimal impact, to conserve soil, water, and vegetation of the area, and are reserved for low impact developments such as agriculture, hobby farms. The mineral and soil extraction clearly is not in alignment with that, and mineral extraction is not allowed in the EC zone. Thank you. Next, yes. The event, in areas where this kind of extraction is allowed, it's only allowed through special use exception. And the requirements in the application have been some intent to protect neighboring properties and shared resources such as groundwater and surface water. The very first element listed by the county for an application is a report by a qualified scientist or geologist regarding the effect of the proposed operation on the watershed of the area, quote, with particular attention being devoted to the water table, end quote. And all of the requirements here in this application are getting at protecting the shared resources and the property around from harm. Protecting the groundwater and the surface water. You can go 2 slides forward, please. So this is a current image from 2025. This is on Beacon. The operation started dumping overburden along the southern and eastern property boundaries of their parcel. So their operating area here is about 52.5 acres. Next slide, please. The soil that was dumped at the beginning of the year was 160 feet from the front door of one of our residents' homes. Next slide. And with 209 feet of Pine Canyon Lake itself. Next slide. So here's an image of the soil that was dumped. This is along the property line. And then the following images are stormwater impacts and sedimentation and runoff. Next slide. And then next slide. It was a large volume of runoff, and the lake is in the background there in the left picture. Next slide. And this is what happened when it hit the lake. The dark area is the clean lake water, and the light area is the runoff that contaminated and polluted the lake. These piles have since been removed after I didn't find them in violation of several stormwater requirements, including operation without a permit and lack of any erosion or runoff control. But the point of these images is that operation under that special use would have prevented this in the first place. Next slide, please. The planning department has never issued a written response setting out the legal basis for its decision, but told us factually that this operation was occurring prior to 2008. With the apparent argument being that it is an existing use that is allowed to continue. This image is from Google Earth from 2008 in October, and this is a parcel, but there's nothing going on there. There's no equipment there. There are no structures. There's no stock. It looks like something was occurring prior to this time, but wasn't at the time of ordinance in 2008. Next slide, please. And then these images are from Beacon. A 2015 and a 2017 aerial. These are showing that during this time between then and now, this facility was idle for at least a year, because the contour of the extraction area is identical between those two images. The berms to the north and to the east are identical, and they haven't moved a bit. The contours of the extraction area are identical. There's a bulldozer parked in the identical spot. There's a small pile of material that is to the left of the bulldozer, and it as well is still there. I'm going to show you images in a little bit between 2022 and 2024, and that's what an operating gravel pit looks like. This is not operating, this is just idle. Next slide, please. Even if it was operating in 2008, our ordinance has a chapter that deals with non-conforming uses, and provision G says that any non-conforming open use of land shall be discontinued within 1 year if the ordinance passed in 2008, so that should have been 2009. There's also a provision about idle uses can't be continued if they're not conforming. So next slide, please. This chapter uses terms that are defined in the ordinance. Non-conforming is a use or structure that existed but does not comply with the provisions of this chapter, and this chapter being the 2008 zoning ordinance. So the section 22 is supposed to deal with things that are not compliant with the 2008 ordinance. Next slide, please. And that's just for what I said. So next slide, please. Thank you. So expansion is not allowed for non-conforming use. And we have outlined here the 2008 extent of this operation. It was about an acre and it was empty. Next slide. Here's that same outline against 2022. Next slide, please. And then here's that same outline against 2024. So that's a clear, large expansion. Next slide, please. And then here we are in 2025 with those activities occurring out to the property line. It's about 50 times larger than what it was in 2008. Next slide, please. The law in Indiana is clear that non-conforming uses are not favored. Indiana courts have refused to permit the expansion of or changes in non-conforming uses because the policy of zoning ordinances is to secure the gradual elimination of non-conforming uses and to restrict or diminish rather than increase them. Next slide. This has been shown to be the case in a number of similar cases. Landowners could not expand non-conforming auto junkyard beyond the original footprint. Next slide, please. And forfeiture of non-conforming uses or requiring them to come into compliance is not a takings under the U.S. Constitution. Next slide. This is an ILP should have been received as well. Next slide. Steuben County actually argued this in court with reference to the expansion of a landfill in the county. They claimed that an ILP should have been obtained for the expansion of the landfill, and the court agreed. And this is similar, same county and similar situation. So an ILP should have been obtained here as well. Next slide. Next slide. We had a licensed professional geologist look with reference specifically to Pine Canyon Lake, and these are the dangers that they identified given the very close proximity to this operation to our lake. Next slide. The next couple slides, this is what happened in Ann Arbor within the past couple of years. Next slide. This is a mining operation next slide, that impacted surface waters and surrounding areas and dried up wells and ruined groundwater and surface water in the area. Next slide. Here, we're looking at a drop in groundwater levels, lake levels between April 2022 and June of this year. The picture on the left, there's a pile of stones as a reference. In the picture on the right, one of our residents' children measured from that stone out to the new lake line, apparently, and it's a, next slide, please. It's a distance, the shore has receded 13 feet, and that's a yardstick, and the lake level is 30 inches low. This is in June of this year, and lakes all around us are high, and ours is not. And this is before hot weather, and this is before, thank you.
It's been so.
It has 10 minutes. It has 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's just an appeal on it, so he has the 10 minutes to.
Shelley or Brent, you're up. Oh, you're up.
Did I just give you 2 stacks of paper?
I can't remember what I wanted to do.
No.
Yeah, there could be 1 or 2 like I didn't have time to do a PowerPoint. I was up golfing for Republicans today, so I apologize for that. But you should have copies, and I've got a copy or 2 left over. That's good. So.
There's the two different homes. Yeah, there are two. Hang on, I'm gonna pass it.
I'm sorry, there's two different packets there.
Oh, we didn't know that.
One's a deadline packet, one's a non-conforming packet. Neither of those words are written at the top of either packet. Ready? Okay. Here's where I'm gonna go with this on 2 points. We're here for an appeal this evening, and the appeal will be specific to a determination that I have made historically. That's why we're here. So while I do feel if there is a problem with the lake level and water quality and things of that nature, that's not on the table tonight. The appeal is the non-conforming aspect and the filing deadline for this meeting to happen this evening. I know we've talked about that quite a bit off and on at other meetings. So what I have here is a couple of copies of some emails. It's been brought up several times that my office has never made a determination. I wanted to show you this first email to Jamie from Charlie. It has been determined that the operation has been active for 20 years and was started by Steuben County Highway Department. That was delivered on March 24th, 2025. So there has been determinations made. There has been communication back and forth. The second one I have is from March 27th to Jamie as well. Steuben County Plan Department has searched the archive and there are no code violations. So there was twice at least prior to April 1st that we had made determinations that there's no violations on that property. I think the question keeps coming, agency calls kept coming in and people kept asking the same questions over and over. We kept giving them the same response to the point where we have a violation filled out on March 28th, 2025. Property owner Brett Delancey and the person that signed it didn't assign their name. They just came in and said Pine Canyon Lake Association. Normally we wouldn't accept this violation letter without it being signed. But it's right on the violation letter, the follow that Cody did. It says gravel pit legally conforming predates ordinance. So there are 3 determinations that were made prior to April 1st again. Now we have a letter here on behalf of Pine Canyon Lake Association. We are writing this respectfully request that the Plan Commission take action to address industrial sand and gravel extraction operation that is currently operating on property located directly adjacent to Pine Canyon Lake. Again, this came in on April 4th. We had 3 determinations that predate that letter right there, and they go up. Again, on April 21, we have not yet received a written response from the planning department. I just gave you 2 emails where the written response was dated on there. To the extent of, on April 23rd, 2025, there was a petition filed for this appeal. Now, we have a rule in our Board of Zoning Appeals bylaws that you have a time limit to file an appeal. The appeal shall be filed with the board within 10 days after the decision of the plan director. The appeal shall be prepared on a form provided by the Office of the Plan Commission and shall specifically, the grounds for such appeal, nothing herein and thereon, facts shall be involved, which the appellant believes may make the act, blah, 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 act as the plan director. So I think what I've showed you here is there were many, many, many complaints, many, many, many determinations made, at least 3 prior to April 1st. This appeal was not even filed in my office till April 23rd, well after the 10-day requirement. So I would say right there at face value, this appeal should be thrown out just because it has not met the timeline. Which again, state law says there can be 30 days from what I remember reading, but we're allowed to be more restrictive. Ours says 10 days, and I believe that bylaws have been challenged already, as previously stated by the presenter that we have gone to court on some of these issues. Now what I want to go to is operator history. If I live next to it, I might define things a certain way, but as I do my job here with the county and I review a lot of these ordinances, what I want to say here is it shows operator history on the first page I give you. Steuben County Highway ran this thing from April 1st, 1990 to December 31st, 2020. The very next day, January 1st, 2021, Old Prairie took over. There was never, ever, ever a lapse at all in this operation. It was picked up, left off one day by the highway, picked up the next day by Old Prairie. And I'm sure Old Prairie is going to testify to a lot of that, what they've been using. Again, non-conforming use, there's 2 kinds of non-conforming, legal and illegal. Legal and illegal. Non-conforming use of building or premises existing at the time of passage of this ordinance or amendment thereto, making the existence of use non-conforming may be continued, although such use does not conform to all the provisions of the ordinance or amendment of this ordinance except hereinafter provided. And that line in there about the 1 year turnover is in there. But when it says open use of land, that is not defined. or defined in our ordinance. It is not defined anywhere. I would look at basically the next line and say, you know, anything was discontinued, it shall be out, but this was never discontinued. And that's the first I've heard tonight about the ILP, should have been issued back in 2012. I didn't start until 2016. That decision is not being appealed, so I really not something I should address, but it was 4 years before I started here. So I got two things here tonight. One is this appeal form was put in well after the 10-day limit that is allowed by this board in their own bylaws. And number two, this is non-conforming and there never was a lapse of use. And as far as the expansion goes, again, not really on the docket tonight, but the expansion stuff I saw, we were just flipping through those sides in my 20 plus years of experience, expansion would go onto another property. Continuing to do the more of the same on an existing property usually is not considered expanding when you look at the planning commission and how we function and operate. The expansion would go when it goes across property lines onto a new property. Non-conformity would go to the entire property, not just the 1 acre use. It would cover the entire land because that's what was zoned and that's what was being used for the gravel pit at the time. Just because they expanded outside of the borders that they had used prior to 2022 means nothing as far as planning and zoning is concerned. They're doing more gravel pit on the same property where they'd always done gravel pit. If you have any questions for me, I would be happy to answer them at this time, or I'll go sit down and wait for the public.
Any questions?
I have, the last 2 pages of your second packet. I think you hit everything but those last 2 pages. That's
I'll concede that yes, in prior to 2008, the old ordinance, as we call it, environmental nuisance control was a zoning district, and it still is, and mineral extraction was a permitted use in that zoning district. That's how I gather this legal non-conforming status. Since they were permitted under the old ordinance in that zoning district, they are permitted to operate under the new ordinance in the same zoning district, regardless of the changes that happen.
all.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Does you like to come forward? You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, sure. With respect to the decision, Ingle, the email in question, if Charlie emailed us, it wasn't to tell us in relation to the code why there wasn't a violation. There was a statement that as of 2008, that thing was operating. We followed up with a question that wasn't answered. And then they said that there were no code violations on the property. That also doesn't answer the question that we had about what in the code makes it so that they can operate. There was nothing that indicated that that was a final decision by the department. So we filed a letter to the director of the planning commission to get further verification, and he then talked to us and let us know that we needed to file an appeal, which we did. But 2 days after he indicated that that was what we needed to do. So the plan director told us when we needed to file to you guys. That's what we did within a couple of days. So I do not think that any sort of decision was issued because there was nothing given to us in relation to the code's requirements that indicated why that should be allowed to operate. It was only statements of fact about the history for the facts. With respect to non-conforming uses, I'm not sure what that expansion on the parcel of a non-conforming use is exactly what those cases we're talking about. And that is those were upheld to not be allowed. The original footprint on the properties is what the non-conforming use was limited to. The case law is abundantly clear about that in Indiana. And I guess the other thing is that it's saying whether if it was a quote unquote legal non-conforming use as prior to the ordinance defines what non-conforming is. Non-conforming is something that lawfully existed prior and is no longer in compliance with the 2008 code. It's in the definitions. And that's what we are talking about, is something that if it was lawful before, it's not lawful now because the definition of non-conforming use specifically says that it's not in conformance with the 2008 ordinance. And I think I think that's it. Trying to remember if there's anything else. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Any questions from the board? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have another turn.
Got tennis,
Yeah.
French Open just ended.
You got your party on the screen. No.
I'd like to go back to the beginning where she said that the contact had been made and that there was nothing in what the ordinance is specified. She's not in here appealing my vocabulary, my speech, or my day-to-day activities. She's appealing my decision. And a determination was made and a decision was made. They were given all the reason and responsibility that they asked for and all that they deserve. And I'm not saying that deserve in a negative way. It's just I'm not going to make stuff up and say, oh, you probably want this as well and more of this stuff. We answered direct questions. We made a determination. We told them this is what the determination was, and they're appealing that determination. And it happened in late March. They had 10 days to file the appeal. They did not file the appeal till April 23rd. And to say that they talked to the plan director, I'm the plan director, and I did not convey that message to any of these people. Where they got that, maybe from Charlie, maybe from somebody else in the office, I don't know. But I didn't say appeal me and then 2 days later shut it down. That was not me. So they talked to somebody else. I was told to return a phone call to one person, then I was told not to return that person's phone call because they were no longer in it, dealing with this situation anymore. So that person, the chance I had to talk to that person is gone. So again, we made a determination. We did it in writing. It may not be what they wanted to read, but it's my job to do, and those are my determinations to make. The determination made, that the message was conveyed in writing, that it had been made, and that they were given the option to appeal the decision, and they didn't do it in time. So therefore, this isn't even right for the discussion, quite honestly. That's all I have, unless you have any more questions for me.
No. I have a question for Jamie. This pink form, it's pink to us. Do you know who filled that out?
I haven't seen it. May I look at it?
Because it says Pine Canyon Lake Association, but there's no person.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Like I said, normally we wouldn't even consider that a valid complaint, but since there's so many phone calls coming into elected officials and whatnot, we just kept it on file.
Okay. I think, any more questions by the board? I think we're gonna have to, at this point, open up for the public.
Before we do that, typically I would ask an office question, but I think I'm gonna direct this to Don. Are we code violations versus usage? Are we clearly separating those for tonight?
This is merely an appeal of the decision that it's a non-conforming use.
Correct. So any code violations, anything relating to an ILP, anything relating to that would not be. I just want to make sure that I'm clear as far as what we're, and not to take away from anybody's presentations or anybody's arguments. I just want to make sure that we're basing a decision based on one thing and not a multitude of things. And though other things may have become concern, I just want to make sure that was.
As I understand the appeal, so the decision of the plan department that the existing site is a non-conforming use.
Okay.
And that it's been continuous in use, at least up to the date of sale, I guess, at that point. Nobody questions it's been continued use. That's all.
All right, I think we're ready for the public, so. Are we gonna,
Everybody here for the
I
public.
mean, I don't respond to the public, do I?
No,
If somebody like comments regarding the issue of the non-conforming use or the filing deadline, can speak at this time if they have any additional
You're gonna tell
information.
people in the hall too, or?
yeah,
Yeah, thank you for that. I think Russell's attention.
okay.
Name's Brett Delancey. I'm the owner of
Hey, what's up? If you're in the bus,
Hang on.
if you want to speak at the podium for any reason, dealing with non-conformity or filing deadline, you may do so now. Line up neatly if you want to. If you're not here for that, I'll shut the door and you guys can keep mumbling about it yourself. It's your call.
My name's Brett Delancey. I'm the owner of the property, west side of Pine Canyon, also own property on the east side and also on the south side. And my cousins own the property on the other two sides. So I'm a fourth generation farmer. I've also I'm a general contractor for over 35 years. And I just want to answer a couple things that they said earlier, that pit was never in use. I use that pit personally for myself when the county was using it. I had my own loader that I drive over there, and I use gravel for my projects that I do in construction. I've been in business since 1988. So that, just because there wasn't somebody commercially there, I was using it for myself, which was commercial use too. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I don't know if you guys have any other questions on anything. That pit has been there forever. And as a farmer, we've been in a slight drought in this area for quite a few years now. We don't get any snow anymore, which makes moisture from the ground for the spring. The rains have been, last year we didn't get rain for over 2 months in the middle of the summer. You know, I don't know how they can say the gravel pit's making their lake go dry. I mean, I'm starving for water on all my ground around the whole area. So different times of the year, the farming's been tough just because we don't get rain like we used to, because we don't get the snow either. So that's pretty much all I've got to say, unless you guys got any questions about anything on that.
I'll ask, just to confirm, I've read all the stuff, but the county highway's been pulling gravel out of there since 1990 or something
Yeah,
like that.
and they used to pull gravel out on the south pit, the smaller one. But we moved them out of there to this pit because that backfield's just hilly and it's gravel, sand, it's hard to farm. If you don't get rain, you don't get no crops.
Right.
But they were buying gravel from us clear back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, even at our other pit. So
The other pit's on the same property.
it's on this, no, it's a different parcel, but it's on the south side of Pine Canyon.
Okay.
I got a question about how much, but before the current operators took it over, how much do you think the county used a year? How many truckloads do you think on
I
average?
don't know how many tons they took out of there. It was a bunch. I mean, they were in there, the first year, they took a lot more than I thought they would. You know what I mean? I don't recall how many tons.
Mhm. But
They
they,
just pay me so much premium by the ton.
okay, so you were getting paid every year for the royalty, basically?
Yeah, and then I don't know if it went to my grandfather prior to that, when it was the other pit. You know, that's too far back. I was a young kid then.
Yeah.
Or younger kid, I should say.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I'll take another speaker, please.
You're the line.
Yep.
Go for it.
Okay, I'll go for it.
Yep.
I wasn't in here to hear Jamie's presentation, so I can't verbatim. I may be duplicating the questions. Louise Swihart, Pine Canyon Lake resident.
Name and address, please.
Louise Swihart, 100 Lane, 100A, Pine Canyon Lake. And go. I know that the surveying has been done horizontally, but has there been any stratigraphic mapping? When they present something for you for approval, do you ask to see a stratigraphic map of the area? Like, how deep is the limestone? How deep is the overburden, the sand and gravel? Is there an analysis done on that? I'm asking questions because I don't know.
We don't issue permits for the state. Does the state issue a permit for?
Feds, I think the feds do for sure.
Federal government
It might
issues
be
a permit. We don't locally issue a permit for extraction, mineral extraction.
Okay. And I can't find that because,
Well, you may be able to find it if you, the federal government may or may not have such a thing. I don't know. But they're the ones that do
okay,
the
because I couldn't
permitting.
find anything like that. And that's what's a concern. And the depth of the water table, if that has ever been mapped, when somebody makes a plea for a gravel pit or a mining operation, I'm concerned about the aquifers. There's numerous aquifers out there and the water table being perched. I heard what Brett just said about some of the lakes are up, but Pine Canyon's down. And we're concerned about that. We've lost about 12 feet of horizontal lakefront in the last 2 years. This spring, when we had the torrential rains, the overburden was incredible because they pushed clear up to the commons area on Pine Canyon. And all that stuff ran into the lake and formed a delta on that, the west side of the lake. I'm concerned about that because on the CC disc, we were at, I think, 16-foot clarity. Pine Canyon is a clear, unspoiled lake. And the CC disc is like a frisbee. It's an orange thing they drop down in so that you can see. And Stone Lake is the only one in Indiana that's higher in quality than us. And that's where they do open water scuba dives over by Middlebury. So I'm concerned that all this overburden is running into the lake, and who knows what else. I don't know, bacterial contamination or whatever.
Ma'am, we're just talking about plant director's decision, whether these other
Okay.
things aren't
I
relevant to our
didn't get to
discussion
the
tonight.
presentation because it was in the hall.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Next.
Again, I heard nothing either. I was out in the hall.
Name and address.
Paula Laurent, Laurent. It looks like Lauren with a T. Actually, I'm just concerned about the water level. I live on Crooked Lake, and this is way too close to our lake. You know, we've got a group, Save 101 Lakes, to handle things like this and to go to bat for the local people. And we're hoping you guys are concerned about our lake levels. We are, and that you'll support us as a community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Longville, 6730 West South Lake Gage Drive. Proximity wise, obviously Lake Gage is close to this whole situation, and it just is it is very concerning, the aspects of what has transpired, both with the pit, the quarry pit, sand gravel pit, whatever you want to call it, and an expansion of it, and then the aspects then that have affected Pine Canyon Lake. And especially with the water levels, and then how will that potentially, again, cause issues for Crooked Lake and or then Lake Gage. So there's a lot there that is very, very concerning to obviously many, many people. And it needs a hard look, something that needs to get addressed to make sure this thing is not going to happen worse than what is there. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim Webb. I'm at 155 Lane 100 Pine Canyon Lake. And I've been researching, I'm doing a lot of research. So I want to read one of the emails directly from Charles Pettibone. I think that Mr. Nauer kind of briefly scanned over that. I need to read it in full. After talking with county highway engineer and owner leasing the property, it's been determined that the operation has been active for at least 20 years and was started by the Steuben County Highway Department. Currently, Brent Delancey leases to Old Prairie Products, and they work with the Highway Department for gravel purposes. The current engineer was not with the county when it started, but it is his understanding that this was originally operated by the Steuben County Highway Department through Mr. Delancey, who now leases to Old Prairie Products. So what we have here is Mr. Pettibone making 2 telephone calls, both to people with secondhand knowledge of the situation. So no firsthand knowledge, no documentation as far as the origin date, no year given. It just says at least 20 years. So when we look at Google Earth and we look at some of the aerials, and when I moved there in 2017, I wouldn't have bought a house on a lake with a gravel pit across from it just because it just doesn't make sense. I think that they were not operating, and my stepdad was a farmer. We're in Whitley County, and I can see him doing this and taking gravel out for his own uses. But at the same time, he should be a steward of the land. And we need to go through a hydrologist. We need to have this mapped, and we need to have an end use plan. And those are the things that we are asking for because of our water table. And one of the things that this board is accounted for is making sure that we're not harmed, and our water has been harmed. And we want to make sure that you're on the right side of this. And I just think that you're going to look this over thoroughly and realize that the complaint response that we received was secondhand information. Thank you.
Just so you know, your job this board is not to determine who is harmed and not harmed. It's to follow the ordinances that you're required to enforce. With all due respect, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I understand what
I
you're
was
trying to
concerned
say.
about the secondhand information as being the response.
Yeah, well, this is an administrative hearing and it's secondhand information is permitted as
Okay,
evidence. So,
okay.
though it's subject, I mean, they can take into account the reliability of second-hand evidence, but it is permitted. We usually use the word hearsay. Okay.
Kelly Plummet. I live at 296 East, 35 South in Bolton, Indiana. And my husband and I own Burger Products. After listening, I have a whole bunch of rebuttals to the formal public complaint that Pine Canyon has asserted against Old Prairie. But sitting here, this really comes down to continuous use. So in the mining industry, we are federally regulated by what we call MSHA, which is Mining Safety Health Administration. Every gravel pit is required to file quarterly reports of production. We have every year's production from 1990, which doesn't matter, but from 2008 to present, every year there's been quarterly reports made of production. We feel that that is continuous use, clear evidence, whereas Google Images and Beacon taken in a snapshot in time don't hold the weight that a federal, somebody who overlooks us as a regulatory body for safety would have. And I would also like to state that we feel that Pine Canyon Lake Association did not meet their filing deadline in a timely manner. If I can just briefly take a moment to talk about dewatering. It has been claimed that this disinformation flies around a lot of the lakes, that dewatering term. Old Prairie does not operate in or underneath the water table. We do not de-water the mine. We're an open pit mine. We do not discharge water off of our site to mine. We get our fresh water to wash our material just like Pine Canyon Lake does through private wells. Like pivot wells, except that the water that we use, as opposed to the water that Pine Canyon uses, it's mixed with their septic and then seeps through the ground in their leach beds. That we are going to drop their water in the third basin of Crooked Lake and Lake Gage just will not happen because we do not operate in or below the water table. We do not do water when we mine.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Oh, go ahead.
My name's Scott Harpster. I live at 140 Lane 100A, Pine Canyon Lake in Angola. I just want to speak to the fact of the responses we got back from the Planning Commission when we made some inquiries. I think pretty much 100% of people would say that we did not get any kind of clear final decision in our communications for this filing deadline to start. I think as a county official, you need to be very clear with your communication. And I feel like we had no clear communication from this department on what we were inquiring for. So I want to make that very clear. We are not county people. This is new for us as a board. We haven't done anything like this before. So I felt like a little more cooperation and a little more clear-cut communication and actually stating this is the final ruling would have been the correct step for them to take to make it clear that that's what they were standing on, not some wish-washy back and forth communication that we feel we got when we were trying to inquire about this process. So I just want to state that. So thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I asked them to line up if they want.
Is there still on there? Anybody else want to testify?
Rebecca Swabing Holston, 115 Lane, 100 Pine Canyon Lake. One of the most disturbing things about the gravel pit is the noise. And I do live on the far, I guess, the east side of the lake, but it's a continual, okay, I know. But my question is, what you addressed about the water table, it makes sense to me, but when I hear that dynamite going off, or blasting.
gravel pit. We
don't-
It's not a stone quarry.
Okay,
We don't-
it's concerning
Ma'am,
because
it's not about the operation of the plant. We're here
okay,
about the timeline
would
of
that
the,
be addressed?
no, that's not relevant to this conversation tonight.
Okay.
There's other forums for that, but not here tonight.
Okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else like to speak, please?
Like anybody else is lined up here either, so.
Okay, petitioner may come forward to address some of the public input. If there's anything you want to add at this time?
I would like to, I think, return attention, with regard to the operational history of the pit, it's not clear to us, and we didn't have proof of operation prior to 2008, but the issue still remains that under the code and those definitions, non-conforming uses defined as something that was lawfully in existence before the 2008 ordinance. So if it was operating and it was lawful, then it's a non-conforming use as of 2008, and it needed to be either stopped or it needed to seek the proper zoning and the special permit that was put into place in 2008, that program. And what we are saying, I don't think anyone here is talking about shutting down the operation or talking about them complying with the ordinance that applied to them as of 2009 and get the proper zoning and the special use exception. So the continuance of operation before that, it doesn't address, it's irrelevant to what the code says with respect to non-conforming uses and how that's defined with respect to the 2008 ordinance.
Ma'am, I have evidence presented by the foremans that goes back to 1990, and it's the amount of tons that they was extracted from this site. There's a few quarters that had zero, but almost every quarter they had material was moved out of the pit. And that's not including what the Valenci's used up for their own use.
And I understand that, and so that means that the non-conforming use provision that in the 2008 ordinance applies. So it was a non-conforming use, it's something that existed before the 2008 ordinance.
Mhm.
And then 22.01G says that something that is like that, that is no longer, it's a non-conforming open use of land. It needs to go and be discontinued within 1 year, or the zoning needs to be remediated, and so does they need to apply for that special use exception. It was noted by the county that the term non-conforming open use of land is not defined, but the word non-conforming is defined. And that's the relevant part of that provision G in section 22 there. So I just wanted to point that out. It doesn't matter how many years they pulled gravel out if it was operating before 2008. As of 2008, it was a decision by the county with the new zoning ordinance to make those things come into compliance with the goals of the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. And that's what that thing was intended to do. And here we are all these years later with it still running without any of the application things. So I appreciate the being able to respond.
Okay. But do you have any?
Yeah, I'll just be real quick. Couple things. I keep hearing the comprehensive plan mentioned here tonight, saying that you're beholden to that. In this case, you are not. Comprehensive plan is aspirational. Future land use map is part of the comprehensive plan that is also aspirational. Typically, when the ordinances are updated, we look at the comprehensive plan and say, okay, how are we going to update these ordinances? We don't usually go back and look to retrofit something that may or may not have been done in the past. Again, I know we've had the document showing that we've had constant use out of that thing since 1990. I've been called wishy-washy tonight. I don't know why using the word determined in a letter doesn't meet the same criteria as using the term final decision. I didn't know we were making a final decision at that point. I believe the word determined holds enough weight because we are appealing by determination, by definition. So we meet the definition of things there. We're not wishy-washy. We ask every question asked of us. It's not our fault if people don't know the answer to the question. And we wouldn't have known back in March when we were responding that there was a possible appeal on the line anyway. So what would we have been setting up for? We're just answering the public's question, something we do all day, every day. If you know the right questions to ask, you're going to get a good answer. If you're patient with us, we can work that stuff out together. But when it's by email like this and we use things like determination and find no violation, I don't see that language being wishy-washy whatsoever. My office made a determination. Pine Canyon's here appealing that determination. Simple as that. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
I have one question for you, Clint.
Sure.
If we look at 22.01, section G, and you go into the last sentence of that, and specifically the part that wasn't read was unless protected by previous grandfather provisions under the same ownership, where would one find that in the ordinances? Is there anything?
I'd have to look that up further.
I'm just curious. I mean, that sentence has been skipped, but there is a provision.
It's a non-conforming. I mean, there's two kinds of non-conforming uses, legal and illegal. If it was legal at the adoption of the time, it's able to be continued. If it was an open use of land, which again, that's not defined, but open use of land to me says not a gravel pit. It means any kind of use on that land. Something continuously being used for different activities. You can't continue to change the activity, open use of land. It has to be a specified use under our zoning criteria. This one was.
I guess I'm just curious if there's a specific section that would speak to.
I think the section at the top of that page.
That's fair. And I appreciate Jamie putting this together because it's sometimes difficult to read, but I was just looking for the grandfathered section, just so that we're. That's all. I'll keep reading that, but
Thank you.
Is there any other questions you want to ask either the petitioner or the plan office? Or plan specifically? Okay. All right. All right, we have a voting sheet about this decision, so I'll entertain a motion to vote to uphold the plan director's decision.
So a motion made up there.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant petition number AP-5-01 applicant Pine Canyon Lake Association property owner information is under Brett Delancey, that we uphold the Plan Commission's decision that it's legal.
Second.
Just so everyone knows, the motion's always made in the affirmative, no matter what the issue is. So doesn't mean the vote's going to come out that way. It's always made in the affirmative. The answer that you get down here, confirm. Yes, so you just fill the other one out.
I have been. Oh, I can't sit there. At least that's how I understand it. If I started doing that too. I think it's the way we usually do it. So just. Like with that, I didn't. Get it the next time.
I know exactly what.
Yeah, I didn't read that.
Yeah, well, I had to. Yeah, that's what I.
You don't like legal things.
Well, I don't think it's.
Charlie.
You need to put your name at the bottom and you need to check the check marks that are above there in the decision area. There is no check.
Yes, there is.
Either decision confirm or deny.
I don't know what he.
Yeah, this might be at the bottom. Somebody's decided their office space.
You said the top or the bottom? The top or the bottom? Down here.
Yeah, you gotta make a check mark in this area here.
You gotta sign it and you gotta do.
You're doing it wrong though. There's missing a check from the decision on the chart, but if you put a check mark there, it's pulled or something.
So if you see the decisions from her, it said.
Sorry, guys.
Right.
Yeah, that's possible. He's never done the appeal before.
Right.
Have we?
No, I know, I've been to some years, I can assume.
No. Back in 2005.
2005, sorry.
Yeah. This one, that's all attorneys.
I know, well, that's where I.
I have voting, announce the voting, please. The plan director's decision has been upheld by this board. It has been upheld. 5-0 vote count. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, I figured.
You know, because like Chris had a meeting. Everybody does. Doug's the only one that.
Because
I'm going to be successful.
It's just not here.
You're gonna switch, you're gonna run this stuff. I want to say on the record, they were just talking shit to me and all of being rude, so I'm gonna tell you in the future, if I don't hold back, that's why, right there.
You're
I
like
tried
Sharon
to,
does, so let's switch the room.
okay, I tried.
There's certain things. that-
Folks, we have 1 hour to try to conduct the remainder of scheduled business. This be expedient.
We close the door.
She's mean.
You ready? I'm gonna talk quick. SE 25-02, Brandon Patricia Graff petition for one special exception for a single wide mobile home. Special exception for a single wide mobile home in agricultural zoning located at 255 lane 587A, Lake James, section 29 of Jamestown Township. Map number 760-329-420-209-000-006. Here's an aerial, I remember that lot. There's an aerial GIS photo out there at Lake James Estates East, I believe. Here we are with the site plan. Here we are with the big mown lot. Another angle of lot, another angle of lot, and that's all I have.
Hi, I'm Patricia Gratz, and one of the petitioners. And as you said, we propose to have a 2018 14x70 mobile home put on the lot. We believe that a special exception would not have a negative effect on other properties in the vicinity or diminish or impair the property values, as it is similar in nature with other dwellings. There are only residential dwellings in the general vicinity. According to our count, there are about 15 other mobile homes located on the same street, connecting streets and adjacent streets to the north and south. So therefore, the mobile home would not alter the existing or intended character of the vicinity. We purchased both lots, with the one to the east, R2, and then the one we are asking for special exception is on the agricultural.
Address real quick too.
Pardon me?
Your name and address real quick.
I did say, you want this address, or do you want my
Mailing address.
mailing address? Is 15010 Mercury Lane, Huntertown, Indiana, 4671.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
We also did get an email from the Lake James Association president. And in that email, let me find the language, sorry. She says, honestly, your purchase of the lot, there are 3 lots, it was 3, the agricultural was combined to 2. Improves things, and therefore better for us to have those lots maintained, the 2018 trailer in place of the empty one and new neighbors. I certainly do not think it will negatively impact property values in Lake James Estates. Anything you want to add, Mrs. Brandon?
Brandon Gratz, I live on 262 Wave Rock Run West, Fort Wayne, Indiana, 46845. Just kind of a couple things about the mobile home itself. It is sided and it has a shingle roof. So it is sided and shingled like a normal house. Any questions? No. Karen?
Just, are you Gonna make this your full-time home versus seasonal?
Season. Yep.
That's all I got.
And-
I'm just curious.
And we've already, we closed on May 16th.
Yeah.
And I've already started maintaining the lot, mowing and uncluttering, debris, trees, things like that. So our plan is to make it look nice.
Is there a plan to build something more permanent in the future, or is this, I mean, I know it's 2018 right now,
We
but,
don't quite know. I guess
and then
to be determined.
it's a mobile, not a modular home,
So it is a mobile.
so then, so I was just gonna. that's-
I thought the modulars were automatically allowed it,
Yeah.
right, on the agricultural, but that's for the,
I just wanted to make sure, so then, cause it's got a title that you'd have to,
yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
no, that's all.
There's no more questions. I'll ask the public. Is there anyone in the public like to speak in favor or opposition to the special exception?
Gladys Stevens. You want my address?
Please.
315 Lane 587, Lake James, Fremont, Indiana. And I will be proud to have these people as neighbors in our neighborhood.
Anyone else like to speak?
Really like your rights right there.
Thank you.
We're fixing it,
so
it's cool.
Anyone else like to speak at this time? Okay. All right, the public portion is closed. Any other questions on the board for the petitioners? Any conditions to consider? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve special exception for Brandon and Patricia Gratz, address 255 Lane 587 AA Lake James, for a use, a mobile home in an agricultural zone.
I'll second that.
Oh, there's 261, that's paying the year. That was 5 months.
Yeah.
That's gonna be an escrow.
Yeah.
They're gonna be an escrow.
It's the hallway.
I know.
Please. The hallway is here.
About 10 and 9, we'll get all the sheriff's department.
Give you this quick.
After what they told me, and I don't want any protection. Thank you.
Maybe you don't, but I do.
I'll protect you.
I'm quicker than I used to be.
I'm just kind of counting on you.
I don't even do that anymore.
The special exception has passed by a 5-0 vote count.
I got the motions, but did I get an as presented? I don't remember.
Yes, that's.
You got it?
I don't think it's a thing.
Yeah, I read it as presented.
Yeah, I had the Karen and Landon, I just didn't, I missed that.
Did we get anything or? No, we don't have us anything.
Just
come to
If you come back to the office and pay us more money, we'll talk about it.
Okay. That's the whole thing. Thank you.
Yeah, just come back in and get the permit. You've got all the records. It'll be in the office. Give us a couple days only because.
Perfect.
Yep.
That
Thank
place
you.
right there.
And Rhonda DeSalins, we live in the blue trailer, like I said.
Oh, okay.
And we don't live there, we're just there on the weekends.
Seasonal too.
Yeah,
How we have this.
but that trailer's been there for
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Ready? D-25-09, Ned Larson petitions for one-dimensional standard variance for a new fence. Variance for a lakefront setback at 19 feet rather than the 20 feet required. Located at 3800 West Shady Side Road, Section 17 of Pleasant Township, map number 7606172110000011. Here's an aerial of the property. Here is where the fence is going with the site plan. Nice view of the lake. I don't remember taking that picture. And somebody else might have taken those. I don't remember taking those pictures. That's a beautiful view. That's all I have for you.
My name is Toby Clark, 5527 North County Line Road West, Huntertown, representing Ned Larson. The fence, I was actually just there a little bit ago. I'm the one that's going to be installing it. They're requesting a 19-foot setback. I got measurements about 18. So I apologize. I don't know if that can be changed at all.
Say one more time.
They applied for a 19-foot setback. I was just there measuring, got 18 feet. So I don't know if that can be.
It's up to them.
The petition is 19 feet. It's been advertised for 19 feet.
Okay.
They can make it 20, but it's gotta be 19 feet.
All right. The way this fence will be installed, all the posts will be driven in the ground. They're not going to be concreted. We drive the posts about 3 feet deep. So if anything were to ever happen that it needed to come out, very easy fence to take out. Just in case anything needs done down there at the lakefront. Both neighbors to the east and west have home structures that are much farther set forward than that 20-foot variance. I'm sure they're grandfathered in. And then there, I apologize. The steps and all the landscaping is right up to that lakefront, so I'm not sure what requirements are different for a permanent set of steps than a fence that requires a different setback.
That's how you take it, the 8 inches off.
I know the answer. I don't want to speak, but it's 8 inches.
It's counted for a structure. It's too bad.
Okay.
Am I right, Clint?
Yes, you're exactly right.
So anything over 8 inches tall.
Anything that's got 8 inches of height or more, so the steps will be count over grade.
You describe the fence.
It is so from about the center of the property to the east, it's gonna be 42-inch tall fence. Center of the property to the west will be 48 inches tall. And that's just because of the grade change, so it'll look like it's straight across, but the grade on the east side of the property is about 6 inches higher. So it's black aluminum. Yep.
You can see through it, then it's got like.
Yeah, there's thickets are 3/4 inch and then there's a 3 7/8 gap between each thicket.
Gotcha.
Random question, Face. Can I ask a
Yes, go
question?
ahead.
So what's the reasoning behind not doing 20 foot? Why 19 foot? I mean, if you're only, we're only, I know you said 18 and now the petition is 19, but why not go 20?
I think they're wanting to be, so their property's flat, it's a patio, and then that hill goes down. So they're wanting to be right at the top of that hill, just to get as much yard as possible for the dogs. And then on the, would be the east side of the property, they've got a paver patio that sticks into that 20-foot setback. So if we were to go 20 foot, we'd be on top of that paver patio. So that would have to get pulled up and changed, I guess. So
I'm gonna ask. probably Clint, but whoever wants to answer, but how do you measure what water level do you, because he wants to be 19 feet from the lake instead of 20. So if he waits till August, he might be 20.
We go, it says average water mark, is what the ordinance actually says.
Yeah.
So what we do as a matter of practice, and I don't know that I've taken Christina, this is Christina DeForest, our code enforcement officer, by the way, should we do these measurements?
No pressure.
I don't know if I've taken her out on one like this yet, but we would simply use a tape measure. Obviously, the reason why we don't use a wheel is it's gonna give us a weird reading, and none of us are certified to use any kind of laser equipment that needs to be calibrated, so it's simply a tape measure.
And there's a
And we
symbol.
go to the scum line on the seawall.
So is the setback from the seawall or the
It's
property?
gonna be the scum line on the seawall. So
So
you go water side of the seawall and you look for the scum.
The
you hold your
normal
tape.
water line
Yeah.
that's on the seawall.
If we're going setback from the seawall, then one side of the property, we're gonna be 32 feet and the other side will be 22 feet.
Then you don't.
I think they're, when they applied, I think maybe they were thinking it was from the property pins.
Cause we come out and do it when you're done to check your stuff. We don't do it on the front end.
So we're approximately 18 feet from the property pins.
And the property
And
is set in from that seawall.
On the east side of the property, it's like 4 feet from the seawall. The west side of the property is about 14 feet from the seawall.
Well, this is kind of why I was asking where you measured from, if you knew where they measured from, so I'm glad I asked.
Keep that in mind for next month, cause we got a guy
Yeah,
on the seawall with
Christina.
the same exact issue. It's just not as clear as this one.
Basically, what we're determining here is if you measure from where you did, he doesn't even need to be here, so we can grant it and he'll be fine.
I would rather you not send him away empty handed just in case, so I would prefer you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to send him away, we can grant his 19 feet, because he just said he was 18.
Correct.
But he's measuring different than you.
And that's something where if you want me to, or the homeowners, we will come out before you start just to make sure if you want to.
Clint, will you flip to, just so we're on the same page, go to the one that's got the potential fence. Map.
Oh, okay.
All right, so you're measuring from this line essentially? Is that where you're at? And this is the seawall?
That's where I got from, yeah.
So Clint's going to measure to the seawall, whereas you measured from the pin. Is that my understanding? I'm just making sure we're on the same page, because that hurt way faster than I thought.
Since we're on discussion.
So I didn't do the homeowner.
No, you're fine.
They didn't ask me their first time.
We appreciate their fees.
So what do we do then on Glacier though? We don't have a line on the seawall. Like it's gone.
There's something for
All right.
nothing. And there's something for you. Nothing for-
Anyway, I got my question answered.
All right, anyone in the public like to speak?
You got it.
Guys, if you leave that up, see the access rights on the left
We need
side.
your name and address.
Greg Newell, 3845 West Shady Side Road, Angola, 46703. I'm part owner of that access on the left side of the left red line. So that's the deeded access.
Shows up better there with the yellow
See
right
there?
over.
Yeah, okay, so we would be facing the lake, the left side of its fence. Okay, so I'm speaking in favor of the fence, not necessarily the 19 feet or the 20 feet, but he's measuring for the property. There is a scum line, by the way, very pronounced one.
Usually there is.
So, his proposed fence is actually set back further than the old one that came down. So he's improving the line of sight. The old fence went all the way down to the bottom of the stairs, probably within 14 feet of the seawall on that side. So he's actually improving the line of sight along there. So hopefully it ends up 19 feet. I think it would be a nice addition. Line of sight, it would be a nice look. Yeah, Ned couldn't be here, unfortunately, but I'm just here to speak on behalf of our side of that fence as far as just what that would look like. So that's it. That's all I got. I think it's an improvement in the setback by quite a bit.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak at this time? Okay, the public porch is closed. There's no more discussion.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move we grant petition number B-25-09 at Larson, right? 19 feet
setback versus the 20 feet required.
I'll second it. Here's this one. Oh, check mark. Kevin does it, not me.
Well, the important ones.
Right.
Controversial.
They're all important. Yeah, controversial. This variance has passed by 5-0 vote count.
Definitely call the office. Maybe we can Wednesday if that's cool.
Okay.
I know, because I got my assistant's off tomorrow and she's leaving half day.
It's gonna be a couple weeks.
Oh, that's fine. I can't, it'll probably be the same thing in a couple weeks, but I can't predict that far
Yeah.
out, so whatever. All right, I appreciate it easy.
If you would like to.
No, I don't want to.
You can sign
I
it.
want to keep at the time. Daughter's over there laughing.
I just remember seeing you. Thanks, yeah.
Oh, you might try. I'll try.
You ready? B-25-10 and B, Tracy Kraus petition for two-dimensional standard variance for a new single-family dwelling, variance for road front setback of 5 foot rather than the 25 required, and for a rear yard setback of 15 rather than the 20 feet required, located at 140 lane 650 AD Snow Lake, section 21 of Jamestown Township, map number 7603-420-406-000-006. Here's an area view of the photo, or of the property, I'm sorry. Here is the site plan with a lot of contours on it. Here's a picture of the property. These are the right pictures.
It's
Okay.
nice, right?
Oh, yeah, well, I'm just saying, I never know till I get here if I took a picture of the right place. So, there you go. That's all I've got for you.
All right, so, my husband's family owns a place on the lake, and this is basically. Oh, I'm so sorry. Tracy Kraus, 8807 Greenwell Road, Cherubusco, Indiana, 46723. So my husband's family, we own part of a cottage on the lake, and this is basically a back lot, 3 lots up the hill. So we are petitioning to get a variance because our property line runs the middle of the road, and the 20-foot setback for the easement basically plus the other 25 creates a very tiny, skinny, long place that we can knock down a really old trailer and build on. So going through this, if this is approved, the approval would not be injurious to public health, safety, or welfare. During the building process, we're actually planning on taking out a number of dead trees in the area that are threatening to fall. There's also a well that is really old and said that it's sort of failing, so that'll be redug and taken out. And we're also going to be burying an electrical line, so we won't have an overhead line, and the overhead line that is there right now sometimes has fallen across the collective drive that services the area that's down below. So I think those activities in this will improve the general safety of the area anyways. And what we're building up there is a permanent single-family residence. My husband and I intend to move up there after we're done and not be a seasonal property. The value of the structures on the land right now from the tax records are valued at around $78,000. What we're putting up there is probably $500,000 to $600,000. So this will obviously elevate the values of property in the area rather than have a rundown trailer in the area. And basically the footprint of the house that we're looking at will overlap the property lines between the two parcels. The one to the east is also owned by Mark Kraus. So the proposed building will actually have a porch that'll overlap those lines, creating a contiguous lot. When that happens, the footprint of the house is actually more compliance with the overall plan and more in conformance with it because it actually meets a, I'll have this down, I'm sorry. But basically, the floor plan right now as it stands does not meet the lake zoning square footage of a residence. And once we do this, the bottom floor of a two-story residence will meet that requirement. And we bought this house, I don't know, 10 years ago, and we had no idea that it was out of compliance. The one that's there is obviously into the easement. There's no zoning records that we could find, and what we're trying to do is put something together on the property that actually improves the value of the property and everything that's around it. So, and this would give us the minimum requirement just to build I think the first floor is like 1,500 square feet. So that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Landon, questions?
Yes, sir.
Kevin?
No.
Karen? Dan? No. I don't have any questions either, so. Is there anyone in the public like to speak in favor or opposition to these variances? Seeing none?
I already talked to all of our neighbors with beer. Just kidding.
Nothing.
We recommend that when we send them out into the real world.
It's in the octane too, on where you want to get those.
That's another discussion.
Are you doing both of them or just the one?
Let's do both because they're both set. They're both set back.
I just want to make sure when I write down, I get both boxes.
All right, here you go. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we move to approve petition B-25-10A and B as presented.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I had them mixed up here.
Pass A in at once. I'll collect them, then we'll pass B in a second. Okay. You can check it.
I think I did this time.
Hopefully.
Did you check it?
Okay, I'm checking your check-ins.
I didn't look at his.
Okay, variance A is passed by 5-0 vote count. Where's on this thing? Just some pressure. Variance B is also passed by a 5-0 vote count.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Come see us for those expensive permits and whatnot before you get started. We'll be
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Straight upstairs, give us your money, and we'll send you on your way.
Yeah, of course.
Government, I don't get to keep it.
We'll be back. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good night.
Have a good night.
Three attorneys, two of you, 2 and 3? Yeah, okay. You better be those quick talking types, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys get paid by the hour.
Well, you always gotta watch yourself when they say, I'm gonna keep this brief.
Yeah, I know, right?
You guys can use those things. Well, they only have 10 for their, your 10
For
minutes.
presentation.
Yep, 10 minutes.
You ready for me to read them in?
Yep.
SE-25-03 Pierce Broadband LLC and Marie Quick petition for one special exception for a radio tower. Special exception is for a new radio tower and ag zoning located with no address at North 850 East, Section 32 of Clear Lake Township, map number 760132000000001. Here is the GIS photo of the property in question. And here is a site plan for the property in question. We do not have any pictures of a vacant farm field for you tonight. If you need to see one, go to Doug's or Kevin's house. They have plenty of them. So that's all I have for you, Steve.
Good evening, board members. My name is Tom Bedsall. I'm an attorney at Frost Brown Town in Indianapolis. 111 Monument Circle. We're here for Pierce Broadband and Marie Quick. The reasons we believe special exception are appropriate are laid out in our application. Petition. I'm not going to just read those for you here. That would be insulting. I do have Tim Fincham from Pierce Broadband. He's going to talk a little bit about the project itself and answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you. My name is Tim Fincham, and you knew the address?
Please.
Okay, it's 2355 Broadway, Oakland, California, 94612. That's where our corporate office is located. McKay Brothers, Pierce Broadband is a subsidiary of McKay Brothers. And McKay Brothers has been around for about 15 years now. We provide a network that connects the financial data centers. Our main path is between Chicago and New York. The way the network works is it's a microwave system. If the best way I know how to explain this, if you go down a road and see a communication tower, it looks like a dish on the tower, that's a microwave dish. That microwave dish is looking off in the distance to another microwave dish. And the information is going between the two. So between New York and Chicago, the sites roughly fall about every 30 miles and daisy chains across America. The site selection for this site, the path it goes east to west, and so I have some flexibility in terms of where I can locate the site, but I was very specific in trying to locate the site at this location. because there is some tree buffers on one side, it's set back from the road. And the amount of properties around there is somewhat limited. Couple other things about the tower. The tower is a self-support tower. It's 199 feet. That's important. Means that it will not be lit. So at night, there won't be a blinking red light or any white lights. Finally, because of the way the transmission works with microwave, there's no RF energy. That energy is going between the two dishes. There's no RF energy coming down on the ground, meaning that the farm will still be agricultural use. The farmer will be using it. There's no health concerns for that farmer or anyone else in the neighborhood. So I think that's about it.
Any other questions by the board?
Questions, because I'm curious. Why every 30 miles daisy chain? Is that like the curvature of the earth or transmission?
Yes, it is. I did bring one diagram that shows.
So it's like line of sight.
It's line of sight.
We have other towers that do that in this county.
Yep. Depending on the topography, depending on the topography between the two sites, like this site's 199 feet, the site to the east is almost 400 feet. That's because of the way the topography goes between the two sites. So.
I have a question. Who owns the property?
It says Marie Quick on our petition.
Okay, I didn't know if that was, I guess that was my confusion. So Marie Quick is a current property owner.
Yes, she has a farmhouse on the property. Or on an adjoining lot, I'm sorry.
And so then you're presenting on her behalf, or I guess I missed that part.
Yeah, on both the property owner's behalf.
Okay, I missed that part. So that's what I wanted to make sure. I was just wanting to make sure that it was cohesive, kosher between the two. That's all I have.
So because I'm curious, so we do have 20 minutes.
Actually about 10.
10, well, yeah.
Yeah, pick up the stuff.
Yeah, we got a few minutes, right? Obviously, Chicago and New York has had to communicate for a long time. How are they doing it now without this tower? Not that I'm against the tower, I'm just purely curious, okay?
The route's being redeveloped right now in order to make that path shorter, essentially. The original network was on existing towers. We're now using a couple of new towers just to shorten the route. Means faster between Chicago and.
Yeah, that 1 millionth of a second for financial transactions.
Yeah.
Computers are racing each other.
And I guess my other question is
Yeah.
with, and I'm technology dumb.
No, there are no dumb questions.
Why are we doing this still with towers and microwave going across country instead of sending it up and back down?
Well, that's an interesting question. We actually do, separate from this project, we do bounce a signal from Chicago over to London through the, bounces off and then to London. Unfortunately, because of distance to do that, there's only so much information that you can communicate on that path. We still can't, the distance from up above satellites or anything, it's too far for signals.
Okay, as I said, I'm curious,
I do have a couple other questions though. Not to cut you off, but
you're fine.
What's the lifespan of this tower? And then what happens to it when you're done with it?
If you want to put a restriction saying that this tower is unused, if you want to add that as a condition, we would take the tower down.
Yeah, I would just, I mean, I guess that's if it's something that you use, I don't know that if that's a reasonable restriction, but I guess my concern is that we approve it, it gets used, you decide that there's a way that you can get a shorter route, or we find something, to Kevin's point, where there's a faster way to do it, an easier way to do it. And then we have a 200-foot tower sitting in the middle of the field that at some point in 10 years becomes a subdivision. And then we have a tower in the middle of subdivision, you've long since gone. So I guess my recommendation would be that if we do move forward with it, that we put and a condition that there's a question.
If it becomes unused, it gets taken down.
But there's a question, your question, is there like a lease with this lady that, or like on that?
There is a lease, yes.
I don't know what asset, not none, but.
It's not relevant to the resolution.
Yeah, but,
You know,
what I meant, if there's a timeline of the lease, then, you know, with the tower. Yeah, I don't know how long these things last. Do they last 5 years, 10 years? Is it 20 years? Is it 30?
I've been in the industry for 40 years. I've never seen a tower fail in 40 years, especially self-support towers. They're built to last.
Right.
Does our ordinance address that issue?
It doesn't. I prefer you guys go condition heavy on this one because cell towers, I've got like a chapter 9 section that's like, hey, you gotta do X, Y, and Z. Under radio tower, what this comes under, I don't have that. So I'm kind of, I could apply it, but if he's got a concern, I would rather he put it in the form of a condition tonight than rely upon the ordinance.
What's the normal length of time though? That's what I was asking about the lease, like how long does that go?
Well, that's not how long, at least I think that better addressed as, if not in use for a period of 1 year, that it be required to be removed, or they come in and request an
To give you an
extension.
idea of how long we think this tower will last, I have a 50-year deal on this property. Cheaper, so. Okay, so.
Maybe Christine.
Yeah,
You might want to go work with this guy.
Okay, I guess my concern is that not necessarily that the tower won't last that long or that it wouldn't be freestanding and support itself for that long, that you quit using it. And
No, I agree
somebody-
with you.
I mean, if we find a faster way to transmit whatever data that you're trying to transmit.
Here's another question. Is there an option, maybe co-locate some other, like cell towers type stuff?
Well,
out
that's
there?
one thing,
Or,
that-
you know,
that's one thing I should have mentioned, but the tower will be available to public, like emergency services, ambulances, police, fire, please come locate on our tower
So you're gonna lease space on it
for free.
for free?
Yeah, emergency services get to be on the tower.
yeah, because you're up there in the corner of the county, so
Right.
that would be handy.
Do I need to work on
Nothing-
getting that done? That it
nothing makes me
from
happier.
Radio to telecommunications, are we cool with, I mean, we let co-location happen on every other form of tower. I just want to make sure it's okay with this. They're being very little in the book about this. So that's fine as well.
I think if it's not in use by, not necessarily the these people, but the tower is not in use for a period of a year, it has to be removed, or they have to come in and ask for
Well,
a.
that's, so I wish we'd done that down by Pleasant Lake. That one's been there at least 5 years. And
Oh, yeah.
Has nothing's,
It's a good deer stand though.
Make all the money though.
nothing's being, there's no cooking on it.
Yeah.
We've tried.
I know the backstory on that one too.
So we put 1 year in the commission?
Yeah, that's up to you.
And the co-location is cool though. I mean, because that's something where somebody could come in the office and normally that's an automatic yes.
What's that?
Co-location of different types of, because normally we're dealing with like a cell tower. This is a radio tower and our book treatment is completely different. But I would like to say yes to co-location because that makes a lot more sense than building another tower right next to it.
Well, sure, and that it may be, I know we've had to vacate a couple towers, the county has EMS and recently, so the fact that it's available would be, I think, important to the county.
Okay.
Don't forget the public.
Yeah.
We might have somebody that's
Yeah, well,
in support or.
Okay. Is there anyone in the public speaking at this time?
Yes, I can do it.
You have the floor for 3 minutes.
My name is Jeffrey Rhodes, 3045 North Bayview Road. Do I have to, I guess I can talk about my many hats that I get to wear, but I do serve on the planning commission, but I also serve in a consultancy role for Broadway Lakeland Internet here in Steuben County. And I just happened to be here for the earlier
hearing today, but saw this on the agenda, so I thought I would speak to it. But welcome to the county. And I guess, yeah, a lot of things that we've addressed from a tower standpoint is utilization and, vacating of towers and things like that. We've had to put a lot of stipulations in place. The tower you talk about at Pleasant Lake, we've been trying to get on that for years, and it's owned by a company that is renting, but again, that's unable to be used by county rules that it can't be multi-use. It can't be used for a cell or EMS type of data. Lakeland does operate a number of different towers, and we've got stipulations in place that you can put that year of non-use and it should come down. And then there's other rules again that you guys have taken into account with the width variance as far as adjacent property owners, and if it's built next to the line, things like that have to be taken care of. But I guess the concern that we would have from a Lakeland standpoint, and I powwowed with some of my leadership today before I came, was just that if there's capability to utilize other towers in the county, we welcome that again if this does not pass this way. But also if there's any stipulations that you'd like to outline, I think it makes the most sense just because we're not leaving extra towers up and things like that. But it's an important part of the communication methodology that we utilize in this part of the country. Although we're putting fiber to a lot of those towers, we still use a lot of microwave capability and radio capability. So it's not that we're necessarily against this, but just that we want to make sure that we're not overloading the countryside with more and more towers. We've become very affluent in making sure that we hide our towers when they're adjacent to a lake. Pine Canyon is a great example of that. But we we want to make sure that again that structure is maintained, and that the sanctity of a land use that we put into place, and the standards that we put in place are maintained by any new vendors that are coming in, I guess. But I can answer any other questions you guys might have. I heard some across the table, but I can tell you what we've done with the last 5 years is Lakeland has expanded their network.
Just out of curiosity, is there a tower in close proximity to this that Lakeland currently has?
I looked at the map. We don't have anything that's close at this point, but yeah, the microwave connectivity, we can go up to 9 miles right now with the technology that's there. And that's the curvature of the earth and topography, trees or things that it might be passing through, but yeah. And standard, tower length is just below the 200 foot, just so you don't have to have it lit. But our water towers, again, kind of take it up a little bit beyond that height, so that, again, that they can reach, line of sight when they need to. Okay. Okay, a great topic.
Great. Moral of the story, don't throw away your microwave using something else.
Thanks, you guys. Good luck.
All right, thank you. All right, is there any other discussion by the board? Yes, all right.
Can I ask you, I'm sorry.
No more questions.
You gotta realize that I'm slow, right? It just takes me a minute to catch up. Have you entertained the option to other adjacent, is there towers? Have you looked in the area to realize?
If there had been a tower in this area, we would have located.
That's all I wanted to know. Yeah. That's all I wanted. I don't know anything about it. I just want, I know there's not a tower right next to it. So that's all.
80% of our network's on existing towers.
That's all. For now, it may change this.
Conditions, we have, needs to be used 1 year inactivity comes down. Is that what is that the condition we're considering?
How do you want to write it?
1 year of non-use needs to be.
Tower removed after 1 year of non-use?
Yes.
The only problem with that condition, I have a problem with it is when we're gonna know they quit using it.
Well, if there's no antenna on the tower, you would know.
Well, I think it would also become an issue like we have in Pleasant Lake, right, where it's-
I don't know. I have no problem with it in there, but it's like, how are we gonna know?
Well, you're not going to, but.
Polonius are.
Little
There's no electric meters hooked up anymore.
They know.
There you
Same way
we're gonna know if somebody takes down a trailer after 3 years. Puts it in the
There's down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Okay, so the tower removable after 1 year of non-usage. Yeah, I said tower.
Total 1 year use.
Okay, mark your ballots. I guess we
No,
need-
I didn't, yeah, we need.
We need a motion, I guess. Yeah, let's have a motion first.
Mr. Chairman, I move a grant petition number SE-25-03 to Pierce Broadband and Marie and Quick for a special exemption used for a radio tower in an agricultural zone area.
I second that. Special condition.
Yes, with conditions that after 1 year of inactivity, the tower is to be removed.
I was second that with the condition.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill.
You checked everything?
Maybe not. Looking good so far.
Okay. We're just making sure.
I don't know if I did on the first one. Yeah, not today, like the first one of the meeting.
He would have told you.
Yeah, I've been checking every, especially the first
No, I just
petition
rewrote the
because
same word.
That's gonna.
they may end up
The first one's.
over here in the building.
Somewhere, so.
We're in the crane in the morning.
We're aware of the time, by the way.
Sorry.
Hey.
And we're with the last one.
Most of you are aware of the time.
It wouldn't have surprised me if we were still going on the first one.
Okay, our last but not least, special exceptions passed by a 5-0 vote count. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
7 minutes.
I was just asking questions because I was.
You got a big.
I know, but that's pretty good.
What's that?
I've just asked questions. because I'm curious. We have a tower that's been a mile from the farm for almost 40 years. It started out with pipeline. And now it's owned by the internet company, and so I've just always watched that. But it has lights on top of it, so.
Okay.
Christina knows why there's lights on top of towers, doesn't she?
Yes, airplanes.
That's
Very good.
Do we have?
Yes.
required.
So you don't get one time.
So that for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't miss them there, it's more fun.
Yeah.
I've already.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motions, meetings adjourned.
Donald's the control.
Sorry.
First was Karen, second was
Landon.
She took a bite. Yeah, they were, right? They're being really mean.
Okay, hang on.
I'm trying to, yeah, we're trying to.